Hey, Jim from Tabula Sono here, and Early Access 1 is live. Like, right meow. So, Kickstarter backers, level 10 and above, you can get in and start creating new games right now. Everybody else, you're going to have to wait, but not too long. Our public launch is just around the corner, and our other Kickstarter backers are going to have a July 1st Early Access 2 launch as well. If you're not already in, it's okay, stick around. But what I'm going to be doing is just walking through, doing a quick getting started guide for those of you that can start playing today. Note, obviously, that everything is work in progress as we're in early access. As we get closer to launch, things are going to get more fleshed out, more refined, etc. But enough, Jim. Stop talking. Let's start playing. To get started, go to play.tabulasono.com. If you are in early access, you'll see a new game link at the top right. If you think you should see it, but you don't, just hop into Discord and reach out to one of the Tabula wizards, and we will get you taken care of. Down here, you'll notice that in the My Games section, you'll see your role for the individual games, and then a copy GM invite link. If you send this link to someone, they can join your game, and they'll be a GM for that game. You get as many GMs or DMs as you want per game. And then if you copy the player invite and send that to your player, obviously they'll join in as a player. So I've created this demo game already, so we're just going to go ahead and click play. I am a game master, so I will be able to see the entire world as we build it. Notice at the top right, we have a default scene here. If you click on that, you can change the preset for the scene. So you can change the floor, grid, wall color, sky, horizon, light, etc. So I'll just go through these real quick. Let's actually get a view of the sky here so you can see it. That one's very bright. So find the one that you like. You can go through and you can change the individual colors as you see fit to set whatever mood it is that you want. You can change these also during a game. So if you go from dungeon into hellfire, that can create quite a dramatic moment for your players. If you look over here at the top right, you'll see that we have a toolbar. So right now, I currently have the world view open. If you click that, it'll collapse. If you click it again, it'll open it back up. I also have the player window open. That's at the top left of the screen. You can take these windows and you can move them around wherever you'd like them to be. You can also resize them. So if you'd like to keep one of them open and leave it somewhere, that's great. I generally keep the player's window up here because each player is assigned an individual color, and that color is referenced throughout the engine and the platform. So just keeping that open as a handy reference is always nice for me. There's also an asset library. We'll go into that in just a minute. And then also a settings screen. This is where you can go to log out or make a bug report. P.S. If you find a bug, please report it. Thank you. So now that we're in our game world, it's rather sparse and empty, so we're going to add stuff to it. But first, I want to show you how to move around the map. If you played a third-person game before, you probably already know. Hold down your right mouse button and move the mouse around. And what that's going to do is it's going to rotate and pan your camera around an imaginary point here in the center of your screen. If you want to get closer to that point, you can mouse wheel in to zoom in. If you want to get further away, you can use the mouse wheel to move back. When you're ready to start moving around in the map, you can use the W key to move forward, the D key to move back, or the S key to move back, and A and D will move you side to side. While you're doing that, if you're really far away from something and you need to get there a lot faster, hold down Shift and it will sprint. So you can move faster if you hold down Shift. Down here at the bottom right, you'll notice that we also have pretty much the same controls. We have forward, back, left, and right, and we have plus and minus for zoom. If you're not a keyboard and mouse fan, you can use those, or if you're using your keyboard and mouse for something else, there you go. So then now that we know how to move around in the game scene, let's go ahead and start creating some stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is just draw a simple boxy room. So I'm going to take this room tool down here, or this rectangular wall tool, and I'm going to just click and drag, and that's going to make this box on the floor for me. You'll notice here on the right that we now have a new room in the scene, and that room has 4 individual walls. You can click over here to select the individual walls, or click over here, but generally in a room setting, I want to operate on all of the walls simultaneously. Simultaneously, you know what I mean. So if I want to do that, I can either select them individually by holding down Control and clicking on the items in the scene. I can do the same thing by clicking on Control over here in the tree view. You can also double click on an item and it will select everything inside of its folder. The other easier way is just click and drag on the map while you're inside the selection tool and let go, and it will take a selection of everything that you have moused over and put that box around. So now that we have all these walls selected, we'll look at these tools over here on the right. We have an up button and a down button over here. That's going to raise the walls and lower the walls. You can also use the R button and the F button to do the same thing, raise and floor. These next buttons are all rotation buttons. The ones with the square or the diamond in them is a snap rotate, so it's going to stay on the grid as you rotate. The ones down here, these are freeform rotation buttons. These can be a little bit more dangerous with rooms and walls because it's going to pull it off of the grid. So if I rotate that a little bit too much, it's going to be hard to get it back to where I want it, unless you use Control or Command Z. Control Z on a Windows machine, Command Z on a Mac machine will undo any accidentally nefarious actions that you do, specifically as it pertains to rotating things off of the grid. So now that I have these in here, we want to, let's say, add a miniature. One thing about adding things to the scene, there's a plus icon down here. When you click it, you get some options. One thing about adding to the scene is where your object gets added in the tree view depends on what you have selected. Right now I have nothing selected. If I add a miniature, he's going to plop into the root of the scene. So there he is up there. But if I wanted him to be in the room, I could have the room selected or one of the walls. And when I plop the mini now, he's going to be plopped into that room. If you accidentally plop something in the wrong place, so let's say we plop him in the root, and you actually want him to be in the room, that's okay. Just drag him into the room. You can also drag them into a specific spot in the room if you want to order them in any specific way. How many times did I just say plop? Anyways, so now that we've plopped this onto the map, we can rotate him around and move him around with all the controls that we saw before. P.S. You can also use E and Q on the keyboard to rotate using this free rotation mode with anything. Very helpful for miniatures. But now I'm actually going to select everything, because if you look at this, we have this kind of see-through, transparent feel to these guys right now. And that's actually because they are hidden from the player. So if I come in as player, notice I have a player Jim in here, he's blue, and I have the player join in, they're not going to see anything in this world right now because it's all hidden. So if I wanted to show that, we can just select that, right click, show for players. You can also do the same thing in the tree view, right click, show for players. After you show it, you'll notice that it all has a more solid feel to it, so now that means player Jim can see what's over here. Miniatures can be assigned to individual players. So if this is player Jim's miniature, I just clicked on it. You can also select in the tree view. And over here, you're going to see a whole bunch of different options. So I'm going to change the assigned to option to player Jim. And notice that his base changes to this blue color. Some models in our library have colored bases, others the entire model colors. And you'll see that change as we get closer to public launch. When you're ready to change the miniature, you can click on the library button over here and you'll see our wonderful, awesome library. Normally, all you need to do is just type in what you're looking for. So if you are looking for a pixie on a corgi, just type in pixie and you can choose that and apply to token. You can also upload new items here as well. This interface is going to change quite a bit as we move towards public launch, so be on the lookout for new tutorial videos and such. Over here on the left, you'll notice we have lots of other filters in there too, so if you're looking for something specific and you want to drill down, so say maybe you want a half elf, you can check that box, you can search for other tags, etc. But let's just take that pixie on a corgi and let's go ahead and apply that to our token. And there it is. So it's popped in and it's now in our scene. This is assigned to player Jim, like I said before. So player Jim can join in and he can actually move that around and rotate that and move that around and control everything about that miniature. Player Jim can also change that miniature. So if player Jim has access to a miniature that you don't, or they want to upload their own miniature from Hero Forge or Desktop Titans or anything like that, they can do that on their own without having to bug the DM. Yeah. Anyways, back to it. So now that we have all those things in the scene and we've invited our players in and we're playing, sometimes you want just a little bit more than just the plain walls on the plain floor. So let me show you what a floor map looks like. So we'll pull in a floor map it's going to drop a floor map right in the middle of the scene. Don't worry, the players can't see this just yet. It's actually hidden. And then from here, you can upload a different image, or you can just keep this really cool one that's in there right now. So I'm actually going to use the one that's in there right now. One thing that I like to do on my maps for my players, sorry guys, we're going to delete all that. I just selected everything and then held down the delete, by the way. And we can also delete this empty room. One thing that I like to do on my floor maps is to just give them a little bit more dimension. I'm going to make that visible for everyone so that it's a little bit easier to see. So to give it a little more dimension, I'm going to go into the line draw tool, and I'm just going to trace off these little sections over here of wall. And then you'll notice the map seems to be a little bit off to the side. So I'll select the floor map over in the tree view, and then let's just go ahead and try and get that to line up with the grid a little bit better. Other way, let's do 4.8. 4.75 sounds good to me. So play around with that and get that exactly where you want it to line up with the grid. And then we could take these walls and we can extrude them up a little bit. So now the players have a little bit of a 3D environment to choose or to play with. So those walls are currently hidden from the player, of course, because everything when you spawn it is hidden from the player. So I'm going to show those, and then we can go in here and drop in some things. A pro tip when you're world building, make sure you keep up with your folders and your folder structures. So notice over here that everything is not in a folder. Would highly recommend putting things into folders, especially if you're going to have larger scenes. It just helps to keep everything kind of organized. But for the demo, we'll just go ahead and start plopping things. So we've got a couple guys here. That's great. I'm using E and Q to rotate them around as we come in. Let's go ahead and wear Acolyte wearing a long robe. Let's change this guy to... let's not do a dragon. Let's go down to lots of dragons. I like it. Very nice. So many dragons. An air elemental. So we'll add that in there. There we go. Let's show those to the players. Let's assign one of these to our player over here so that he can move them around. I also have a color on my player here, so if I wanted to color this one my color, then we can change that to DM Jim. Move that over here a little bit out of the way, and then have your battle. Maybe when the player Jim is victorious, we can take this guy, we can plop him over, move him up one to signify that he's dead, and he's just a glob on the ground. And I did that, by the way, by altering some of these more advanced properties down here. So we've played more with some of these up at the top. You can also, instead of right-clicking, showing and hiding, you can change that here for visibility. We've assigned things, we've set miniatures. But what I just did is I actually changed the rotation. The rotation on the x-axis is going to make him pitch forward and down so that he's flat on his face. So that's what that 90-degree angle does there. And then I also moved him up. If you just rotate him on 90 degrees, he's going to be kind of in the ground, but you can move that up by changing the Y position. Y is up in the game world. Change that to 1. You can also fine-tune these, so if you're playing something like a war game where you need really precise measurements, then you can use these on here right now. The grid is set up to, by default, be 5 units wide. In a future release, we're going to allow you to change that so that the grid can be 1 by 1, 5 by 5, 15 by 15, whatever you want. And the last helpful tool that I want to show you is actually a really nice world building tool. We'll go over way over here off to the side. When you build things in here, so let me go ahead and do a rectangular room over here. So we're going to have a rectangular room there. It created a new room for us, so let's go ahead and keep that selected, and I'll go ahead and drop some minis in there. And I'll raise these walls up. And we'll move the, whoops, Control Z. We can move these minis around just a little bit. I'm going to put one just outside the walls to demonstrate something. And then in here, we're going to show them so that we can see them a little bit better. If I go straight up and down here, based on how human eyes work, you'll notice that this wall starts to cover up these miniatures, and it makes it a little bit hard to see. It also, if you're very far out, it also makes it a little bit harder to get super precise when you're drawing your walls. So we've added this map mode over here at the bottom right called 3D/2D. Right now we're in 3D mode. If I go into 2D mode, it's going to remove that perspective that we get from having round eyeballs and make everything seem as if we're looking straight down without any curvature in the eyes at all. So that makes so that you can see these miniatures from a truly top-down perspective. You can get very, very precise when you're drawing lines or when you're moving things about. Again, for war games, this is really nice when you need to be able to see exactly where something is and exactly for how far away from other units things are. Also, when you're in this mode, or any mode, you can double-click on the compass and it will automatically point you north. That works in 2D mode or 3D mode. So if you ever kind of get lost, you can always just switch back into that, double-click, and it'll just push you north. Don't forget that the compass is down there. So if somebody says, I want to hit that goblin over there, ask them to give you a cardinal direction, or even better, have them double click on the floor, and that will show you a ping that's using the color of the player. So they can see that, you can see that. That's a very good way to indicate directionality or a specific thing that you're talking about. That goblin, this goblin, the other goblin, etc. It's not always goblins, I know that. Start experimenting, start playing around, see how your players use the different controls and how they end up using the miniatures. A lot of our players will, when they're speaking or talking to each other, they'll wiggle around a little bit, which gives it a nice little effect. And then, of course, we have a couple players that'll just sit there and spin around. Spin around. Wonderful. Okay, I think we'll just end with that. If you have any questions, suggestions, feedback, bugs, comments, or clean jokes, make sure you join our Discord. Even if you're not in early access, please join our Discord. We like people, we like talking. Share a meme or two. And other than that, I guess we'll just see you online. Thanks for watching.